bet your master found you difficult at times.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine. I started hearing whispers about Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
Anakin spoke highly of you.
You were so young when you survived the Clone War.
I'm not here to discuss my past.
You have no power.
You never made things easy for me.
As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
What happens when you find Thrawn?
For others, power.
Nice haircut.
This is a new beginning. War is inevitable.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my new Ahsoka trailer. Episodes are starting really soon. There's a bunch of Easter eggs here. Of course, I'll be doing videos for everything, so be sure to subscribe to get all those episodes. I'll do a giveaway during episode videos, too. A lot of Anakin Skywalker going on during this. Really think that he's going to show up in some sort of cameo. Like Hayden Christensen supposedly signed a contract that would allow him to come back in multiple ways. Like come back as Darth Vader earlier in the timeline, but also come back as Force Ghost Anakin at some point. Maybe even more flashback scenes, which are also completely different. There are a lot of ways to include him in the story. It only makes sense that he would have more cameo scenes during Ahsoka because there's such a connection between those two characters. I talked about it in previous videos too. Even Rian Johnson during The Last Jedi was almost going to include Force Ghost Anakin instead of Force Ghost Yoda with the Luke scenes. The only reason why he went for Yoda instead of Anakin is because Luke had a much more personal relationship in the original trilogy with Yoda than he did with his father. But now that we're doing deep dives on Ahsoka's character, she had that same kind of relationship with Anakin Skywalker, so it only makes sense that he would show up during her series in some way. Hayden Christensen has said for a long time too, he would love to come back as much as possible, just depending on whatever the project winds up being. Even though they haven't said a whole lot about what they might do with Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. They might do it, they might not do it, they're very non-committal about it. There's a lot of you also asking about the Knights of the Old Republic Easter eggs in this too, with the Jedi star maps, an artifact that was left behind by the ancient Rakatan Infinite Empire from the Knights of the Old Republic series. They were originally just part of the Legends canon, but Andor actually recanonized them again. They brought them back into the canon. The Rakatan created the star maps to be a self-sustaining technology that was imbued with and drew upon the dark side of the Force. These maps were fabricated to be monuments to the glory of their empire. Originally, the maps were meant to show the locations of their most powerful monuments. Like within the Knights of the Old Republic series, it was the Star Forge, because that was a big super weapon. Now it looks like Dave Filoni is recanonizing some more aspects of the Knights of the Old Republic story to the Ahsoka series. A lot of you will remember that they already canonized a lot of those characters as well too. Darth Revan, probably the biggest one. He was canonized during Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker on that Exegol Sith planet. There's a statue of Revan there. During the Andor series, Tony Gilroy brought them back into the canon with this huge Easter egg. Luthen is trying to convince Andor to join their mission early in the series. He offers him the Kuwati Signet, which is meant to be a necklace made from a Kyber crystal, the same crystals Jedi and Sith use in their lightsabers.
It's a down payment. It's a Kuwati Signet. Blue Kyber, Skystone, the ancient world. It celebrates the uprising against the Rakatan invaders. Just know it will always be worth more to me. I want it back when this is over.
Based on the Ahsoka trailer footage, they're implying that Thrawn's minion, Morgan Elsbeth, that we met during The Mandalorian, has found a way to use the star maps to locate Thrawn in the unknown regions. And this might explain why Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth are working with Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, because they need their Jedi abilities, their Force abilities. They're not technically Jedi, they're not Sith either. They need people who can use the Force that can activate the star maps. And Morgan Elsbeth has found a way to use those maps to locate Thrawn in the unknown regions. And Thrawn has also learned to use the star maps to plot a course through the unknown regions. A lot of theories about what Ezra Bridger was doing while he was lost with Thrawn in the unknown regions. Maybe at some point they started to work together. We'll see about that. The whole thing about Thrawn is he's a very pragmatic character. He doesn't hold grudges the same way the Emperor held grudges. For instance, even though he was fighting against Ezra Bridger and all the rebels during the original Star Wars Rebels series, if Ezra Bridger were the only person who could help him escape the unknown regions, he would be happy to work with him. A lot of the Ahsoka series is recanonizing stuff from the original Thrawn trilogy and more about his backstory. There's been a lot of new storyline that they've introduced for his backstory in the comics as well as the novels. The whole thing with Thrawn is that as a member of the Chiss race, he had already possessed partial maps of the unknown regions that the Empire and the New Republic didn't have access to. So even though it seems like the star maps are a big part of this, and them plotting a course through the unknown regions, their people already knew how to navigate most of, not everything, but most of the unknown regions. This was the main reason why the Emperor was interested in Thrawn in the first place right after the Clone Wars. So Anakin Skywalker, during the Clone Wars, accidentally discovers Thrawn in the Chiss, and Thrawn then offers his service to the Emperor as well as maps of the unknown regions, which he wanted in exchange for the Emperor just leaving his people the Chiss alone. This is part of the reason in present day why he's also trying to destroy the New Republic, because he believes he can manage the galaxy more efficiently than the New Republic or the Emperor himself were he to resurrect and come back. They kind of got into this whole concept at the end of The Mandalorian Season 3 with the Shadow Council. The idea is that even though you have all these different factions within the Remnant Empire, not all of them want the Emperor back. That was what Project Necromancer was all about, and it's being completed by Brendol Hux, who's part of the forces on the Shadow Council, another group within the Remnant Empire that wind up becoming the First Order in the sequel movies. His grandson is General Hux, and the joke here, like the reference here, is that the actor who's playing Brendol Hux is actually Domhnall Gleeson's brother in real life. So at this point in time, Thrawn doesn't care or like the Emperor. He doesn't want him to be resurrected, and not all the members of the Shadow Council even like Thrawn that much, so it's sort of like evil eating itself alive slowly. Technically, Thrawn isn't evil though. Like, all the brand new story that they've introduced for his character makes him more of an anti-hero type of character. He does a lot of terrible stuff, but it's all in the name of protecting his people, the Chiss. So Thrawn is playing four-dimensional chess with the other members of the Shadow Council, which we'll probably see referenced during Ahsoka at some point, and with the members of the New Republic, which he's trying to overthrow. It also seems like they're adapting part of the Thrawn trilogy storyline from the Dark Forces book. That's the second book in the series, where he finds a new fleet of ships that give him a huge power upgrade in the actual ability to physically defeat the New Republic. During the Ahsoka series, I think the change, though, is that he'll have already found those ships while he was missing in the unknown regions during the events of the original trilogy. And we'll see all those at the very end of the series. Like, he'll show up, but we'll see him full on with all this fleet of ships. It seems that they're plotting the series out this way, and the first half of the series will be Ahsoka before the events of that Star Wars Rebels ending scene, but after the events of The Mandalorian Season 2 and the Book of Boba Fett cameo scene. She starts learning about Thrawn's return and the possibility of Ezra Bridger coming back, but she's mostly focused on finding Thrawn and dealing with that threat. Then she goes to Hera, the New Republic, with her concerns, and Hera's the one who advises her to get Sabine Wren's help. And they start to get into the story of what happened between the two of them, why there's some beef between the two of them, mostly explaining why Ahsoka took off at the end of Rebels and what she was doing, and then what Sabine Wren was doing this whole time. I've talked about that in previous videos too. Sabine stayed on Lothal because she promised Ezra Bridger that she would take care of the people while Ezra was away. She also kept Ezra's lightsaber, which is why she's using it against Shin Hati during the trailer footage. Then they have almost that exact same scene from the end of Star Wars Rebels, but in live action, and they take off to actually find Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. But the whole idea is that Sabine Wren cares more about finding Ezra Bridger than Thrawn, and Ahsoka cares more about finding Thrawn than Ezra Bridger. While that's happening during the first half of the series, they set up the Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati characters, what they're doing and why they're working with Thrawn, even though they don't necessarily care about the Empire coming back. Like I said, I think it's because they're the only Force-sensitive people that will work with them that can activate the star maps, because you need to be able to wield the Force in order to use the star maps. Then the second half of the series is focused more on what Thrawn has actually been doing this whole time and what really happened to Ezra Bridger. So like the first half of the series is kind of like the first half of the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. Then halfway through the season, the actual Fellowship comes together, and then they head for Thrawn in the second half of the series. There's actually a funny connection between Ahsoka and the Lord of the Rings series. So back when Rise of Skywalker came out and they had all the Jedi voices speaking at the very end of the series when they were defeating the Emperor, Ashley Eckstein actually voiced Ahsoka during the scene. So a lot of people are like, wait a minute, does that mean that Ahsoka is dead during the events of the sequel trilogy? And Dave Filoni posted this picture of older Ahsoka looking like she did at the end of Star Wars Rebels, like she does in present day right now, standing next to Gandalf with a joke about people believing that Gandalf had died because during the events of the Lord of the Rings series, Gandalf winds up coming back to life. So it was Dave Filoni basically saying that Ahsoka was probably still alive during the events of the sequel movies. We'll just eventually find out what she was doing and why she wasn't in those movies that same way. It's the exact same phenomenon with the Grogu character. Like, what was Grogu doing during the sequel trilogy? Because he would have been about the same age that Yoda was when Yoda became a Jedi Master when the events of the sequel movies are happening. But I think by the end of season 1, they're meant to actually find Thrawn and find Ezra Bridger, even though there might be some twist behind that. Because, for instance, people are wondering what's going on with this mystery Inquisitor, who they're listing the name as Marok, like it's just being called Marok, but that's not a name from the canon. They could either be a completely random Inquisitor, like just nobody at all, nobody special, or it could actually be a character that we know, they're just pretending is a different character. The weird thing about this part of the timeline is that the Inquisitorius did not survive the fall of the Empire in Return of the Jedi. Like, they basically went away, so why is this character still being an Inquisitor during this part of the timeline? As for the Mandalorian and Grogu having any kind of cameo scenes during the Ahsoka series, it's always possible. Like, you would expect them to cameo if no one else. They're basically bringing all the characters back from Star Wars Rebels, though. Like, that's why we saw Zeb during the Mandalorian series. I think that they'll focus more on bringing those characters back that they have not already brought back yet. Big reminder that the first 2 episodes are dropping on the first day, and then it'll be weekly after that. There are 8 episodes total, just like the Mandalorian series. So, of course, I'll be doing videos for everything. Leave all your big requests or big questions in the comments below, or if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the trailer that I didn't talk about in the video or my other trailer videos. We'll probably get another big trailer in the next couple of weeks. There's supposed to be a big Loki Season 2 trailer on Monday. Of course, I'll do a video for it if they wind up releasing it. That'll be released after the Ahsoka series is done. Click here for that Loki Season 2 trailer video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my other Comic-Con trailer videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.